First contact. The day the Zarkonian ships appeared in Earth's orbit started like any other. Dr. Elena Reyes, lead xenobiologist at the United Nations Space Command, UNSC, was reviewing data from the Mars colony when the alarms blared throughout the facility. She rushed to the command center, her heart pounding with a mixture of fear and excitement. Commander Jackson stood before a massive holographic display, his face etched with concern. "Dr. Reyes, glad you're here. We've got company." Elena's eyes widened as she took in the sight of three sleek, silver vessels hovering above the planet. Their design was unlike anything humanity had ever conceived. Organic curves blended seamlessly with sharp angles, creating an aesthetic both beautiful and alien. First contact, Elena whispered, her voice barely audible of the controlled chaos of the command center. Commander Jackson nodded grimly. "And we have no idea if they're friendly or not. The Security Council is convening as we speak." Over the next few hours, the world held its breath. Social media exploded with speculation and conspiracy theories. Religious leaders called for calm, while some fringe groups declared it the end times. Through it all, the alien ships remained silent, a looming presence that defied explanation. It wasn't until sunset that the Zarkonians made their move. A smaller craft detached from one of the vessels, descending towards the United Nations headquarters in New York. As it touched down on the expansive lawn, a hush fell over the gathered crowd of diplomats, military personnel, and media. Elena, along with Commander Jackson and a team of experts, had been flown in to witness the historic moment. She watched, transfixed, as a hatch on the alien craft slid open with a soft hiss. The being that emerged was tall and lithe, its body covered in iridescent scales that shimmered in the fading sunlight. It had 4 arms, each ending in long, delicate fingers. But it was the creature's eyes that captivated Elena, 3 large, multifaceted orbs that seemed to take in everything at once. The alien raised one of its upper arms, palm outward in what Elena hoped was a universal gesture of peace. Then, to everyone's shock, it spoke in perfect English. "People of Earth, I am Ambassador Zalthar of the Zarkonian Confederation. We come seeking alliance in the face of a grave threat to our galaxy." Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Elena exchanged a glance with Commander Jackson, whose hand had instinctively moved to his sidearm. The UN Secretary-General stepped forward, her voice steady despite the unprecedented nature of the situation. "Ambassador Zalthar, we welcome you to Earth. I am Secretary-General Amina Bello. May I ask what threat you speak of?" Zalthar's multifaceted eyes seemed to darken. "We call them the Void Eaters. They are a scourge that consumes entire star systems, leaving nothing but empty space in their wake. They have already devoured a third of our territory, and now they set their sights on this sector of the galaxy." Elena's scientific mind raced with possibilities. A force capable of consuming star systems. It seemed impossible, and yet the evidence was standing right before them. Commander Jackson spoke up, his military training evident in his direct approach. "With all due respect, Ambassador, how do we know this isn't some elaborate ruse to conquer our planet?" Zalthar's upper arms made a fluid motion that Elena interpreted as resignation. "Your suspicion is understandable, Commander. We have encountered many species who reacted similarly, but time is of the essence. The Void Eaters will reach your solar system within one of your Earth years. We came to warn you and offer our help in preparing a defense." Secretary-General Bello's expression was grave. "This is a lot to process, Ambassador. We'll need time to discuss and verify your claims." "Of course," Zalthar replied. "We anticipated your need for proof. With your permission, we would like to share our sensor data and historical records of the Void Eaters' destruction." Over the next few days, Earth's greatest minds pored over the information provided by the Zarkonians. Elena worked tirelessly, analyzing biological data on the Void Eaters. The more she learned, the more terrified she became. The Void Eaters were not a singular entity, but a collective of energy beings that existed in a state between matter and antimatter. They consumed the very fabric of space-time, growing stronger with each star system they devoured. Conventional weapons were useless against them. A week after first contact, the UN Security Council convened an emergency session. Elena found herself presenting her findings to the world's leaders, her voice trembling slightly as she described the existential threat facing not just humanity, but all life in the galaxy. Based on the data provided by the Zarkonians and our own analysis, we believe their warning to be genuine, Elena concluded. The Void Eaters are real, and they are coming. The room erupted into heated debate. Some nations called for immediate alliance with the Zarkonians, while others argued for isolation and building up Earth's defenses alone. The discord threatened to tear apart the fragile unity of the planet at the very moment it was needed most. As the arguments reached a fever pitch, a junior aide burst into the chamber, his face pale. "Madam Secretary, Mr. President, we're receiving a transmission. It's from the Jupiter monitoring station." The room fell silent as the main screen flickered to life. The image was grainy, distorted by interference, but what it showed sent a chill down Elena's spine. A massive, swirling vortex of darkness was forming near Jupiter's great red spot. As they watched, one of Jupiter's moons was pulled into the vortex, disappearing in a flash of light. "My God," someone whispered. "They're already here." Commander Jackson's voice cut through the shocked silence. "Mr. President, we need to make a decision now. Do we stand with the Zarkonians, or do we face this alone?" All eyes turned to the President of the United States, whose face was ashen but determined. He looked at Elena, then at the image of Jupiter on the screen, and finally at Ambassador Zalthar, who stood silently at the back of the room. "Ambassador," the President said, his voice firm. "On behalf of the people of Earth, we accept your offer of alliance. God help us all." As the room erupted into a flurry of activity, Elena caught Zolthar's eye. The alien's multifaceted gaze seemed to convey a mixture of relief and sorrow. They both knew that this was only the beginning of a long and perilous journey. Humanity had taken its first step into a larger, more dangerous universe. The coming days would test their resolve, their ingenuity, and their very understanding of what it meant to be human. But as Elena looked around at the determined faces of her colleagues, she felt a glimmer of hope. If any species could face its challenge and emerge victorious, it was humanity. The battle for survival had begun. In the weeks following the dramatic revelation of the Void Eater's presence in the solar system, Earth underwent a transformation unlike any in its history. The impending threat had achieved what centuries of diplomacy could not: a truly united human race. Dr. Elena Reyes found herself at the center of this whirlwind of change. As one of the few humans who could understand the complex biology and physics of the Void Eaters, she had been appointed as the chief liaison between Earth's scientific community and the Zarkonian delegation. The United Nations Space Command headquarters in Geneva had become a hive of activity. Elena hurried through its crowded corridors, her mind racing with the latest data from the Jupiter monitoring station. The Void Eaters had consumed 3 of Jupiter's moons and showed no signs of slowing down. She entered the main conference room, where Commander Jackson was deep in discussion with Ambassador Zalthar and a holographic projection of Admiral Zhao of the Chinese Space Force. "Dr. Reyes," Jackson nodded as she took her seat. "What's the latest?" Elena activated her tablet, projecting a 3D model of the Jupiter system. The Void Eater's rate of consumption is increasing. At this rate, they'll finish with Jupiter in less than a month. After that, she didn't need to finish the sentence. Everyone knew Earth was next. Zalthar's multifaceted eyes seemed to dim. "It is as we feared. They grow stronger with each celestial body they devour." Admiral Zhao's hologram flickered as he leaned forward. "Then we must strike now, while they are still confined to Jupiter's orbit. Ambassador, you mentioned your people have weapons capable of harming these creatures." "We do," Zalthar confirmed, "but they require tremendous energy to operate. Your planet's current technology cannot power them effectively." Commander Jackson frowned. So what do you propose? We can't just sit here and wait for them to reach Earth. Elena had been pondering this problem for days, and suddenly an idea struck her. What if we combine our technologies? Earth's nuclear fusion research has made significant strides in recent years. If we could adapt that to power the Zirconian weapons. Zolfar's upper arms made an intricate gesture that Elena had learned to interpret as excitement. Yes, that could work. Our scientists never explored fusion as an energy source due to the scarcity of suitable elements in our home system. Admiral Zhao nodded approvingly. China's fusion program is at your disposal. We'll need to work fast to scale up production. As the meeting adjourned, Elena felt a mix of hope and trepidation. They had a plan, but the real work was just beginning. Over the next few weeks, Earth became a global construction site. Factories that once produced consumer goods were retooled to manufacture components for the hybrid Earth-Zirconian defense systems. Universities and research labs worked around the clock, combining human ingenuity with alien knowledge. Elena found herself working closely with Zolfar's chief scientist, Kalar. The Zirconian's six-fingered hands moved with incredible precision as they assembled a prototype of the energy weapon. Your species continues to amaze me, Elena, Kalar said, using her first name as she had insisted. The speed at which you adapt and innovate, it's unprecedented in our experience. Elena smiled, feeling a sense of pride in humanity's accomplishments. We've had a lot of practice adapting to challenges. Our history is full of moments where we faced extinction and came out stronger. Kalar's eye stalks swiveled towards her, curiosity evident in their gaze. Yet you also have a history of conflict among yourselves. How do you overcome such divisions in times of crisis? Elena paused, considering the question. I think it's because those conflicts are part of what makes us human. We argue, we fight, but we also cooperate and create. In our darkest moments, we find our greatest strength. Their conversation was interrupted by an alarm. Elena's tablet lit up with an urgent message. The Void Eaters had finished with Jupiter and were moving towards Mars. The next few days were a blur of activity. The first wave of hybrid defense satellites was rushed into orbit around Mars, a last-ditch effort to slow the Void Eaters' advance. Elena, along with a team of human and Zirconian scientists, monitored the confrontation from a hastily constructed control center beneath the Alps. As the Void Eaters approached Mars, the satellites sprang to life. Beams of energy, born from the union of human and alien technology, lanced out into space. For a moment, it seemed to work. The dark mass of the Void Eaters recoiled, its edges flickering. But then, to Elena's horror, the creatures adapted. They split into smaller entities, weaving between the energy beams. Mars's tiny moons, Phobos and Deimos, were the first to go, swallowed in a matter of minutes. It's not enough, Commander Jackson growled, watching the feeds. We need more power. Elena's mind raced. They had one advantage the Void Eaters couldn't match: human unpredictability. What if we detonate fusion bombs inside their mass? The sudden energy release might disrupt their structure. Kalar's eye stalks quivered with concern. The risk would be enormous. The pilots would almost certainly not survive. I'll do it, a voice said from the back of the room. Elena turned to see Captain Miguel Ramos, one of Earth's most decorated test pilots. I volunteered to fly the first manned mission against these things anyway. Might as well make it count. The plan came together with terrifying speed. As Mars crumbled under the Void Eaters' assault, a small fleet of ships, each carrying a fusion bomb powerful enough to level a continent, prepared to launch. Elena watched, her heart in her throat, as the ships took off. Captain Ramos's voice crackled over the comms, calm despite the suicide mission he was undertaking. For Earth, and for all life in the galaxy, it's been an honor. The ships disappeared into the roiling mass of the Void Eaters. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, a series of blinding flashes lit up the void of space. The creature's form wavered, parts of it seeming to evaporate. "It's working," Kalar explained, their usual composure breaking, but their celebration was premature. As the light faded, they saw that while the Void Eaters had been wounded, they were far from defeated. The remaining mass retreated, moving out of range of Mars' orbit. "They're regrouping," Commander Jackson said grimly. "And now they know what we're capable of." Elena stared at the screen, a mixture of emotions washing over her. They had bought some time, but at a terrible cost. Captain Ramos and his team had given their lives, and Mars was a shattered husk of its former self. As the control room buzzed with activity, plans already being made for the next phase of the defense, Elena felt a gentle touch on her shoulder. She turned to see Zalthar, the ambassador's eyes conveying a depth of emotion she hadn't thought possible in their alien features. "Your people have shown great courage," Zalthar said softly. "We underestimated you, I think. Perhaps you are the allies we have been waiting for all along." Elena nodded, her resolve hardening. The Void Eaters had made a critical mistake. They had united humanity and the Zarkonians in a way nothing else could have. And united, they were a force to be reckoned with. As she turned back to her work, Elena knew that the real battle was just beginning. But for the first time since this crisis began, she felt a genuine spark of hope. Humanity had faced extinction before and survived. With their new allies by their side, they would do so again. The stars themselves would bear witness to humanity's indomitable spirit. The loss of Mars had been a devastating blow, but it had also ignited a fire in the hearts of both humans and Zarkonians. In the months that followed, Earth became a crucible of innovation and determination. The hybrid technology that had shown promise in the battle for Mars was refined and improved at a breakneck pace. Dr. Elena Reyes stood on the observation deck of the USC Horizon, Earth's first true interstellar warship. The vessel was a marvel of engineering, combining the best of human and Zarkonian technology. Its sleek lines and powerful engines were unmistakably human, while the shimmering energy shields and advanced weapon systems bore the alien touch of their new allies. "Impressive, isn't it?" Commander Jackson said, joining her at the viewport. 2 years ago, we could barely reach Mars. Now we're about to take the fight to the stars." Elena nodded, her eyes fixed on the blue marble of Earth below. "I just hope it's enough." The door slid open, and Ambassador Zalthar entered, followed by Admiral Zao. "The fleet is ready," Zao announced. "It's time." As they made their way to the bridge, Elena felt the weight of the moment. This wasn't just humanity's first major venture beyond their solar system. It was a desperate gambit to save all life in the galaxy. The bridge of the horizon was a hive of activity. Human officers worked alongside Zarkonian specialists, their movements synchronized after months of joint training. At the center of it all stood Captain Amelia Chen, her posture radiating confidence and authority. "Status report," Chen barked as the senior staff took their positions. "All systems green, Captain," the young lieutenant at Ops replied. "The rest of the fleet reports ready for jump." Elena took her seat at the science station, Kalar settling in beside her. The Zarkonian scientist's eye stalks quivered with a mixture of excitement and apprehension. "This is Captain Chen to all ships," the captain's voice rang out over the fleet-wide channel. "You all know what's at stake. The Void Eaters think they can consume our worlds, our very existence. Today, we show them that the combined might of humanity and the Zarkonian Confederation is not to be underestimated. For Earth, for Zarkon, for all life in the galaxy, engage jump drives." A chorus of acknowledgements flooded the comms. Elena felt a slight lurch as the Horizon's jump drive activated. The stars outside the viewport stretched into lines, and then they were hurtling through subspace. The journey to the edge of Void Eater territory took weeks, even with the advanced jump drives. Elena spent the time working with Kilar and the other scientists, fine-tuning their weapons and defenses based on the data from the Mars encounter. As they approached their destination, A sense of tense anticipation filled the ship. Intel from Zarkonian long-range scouts suggested that the Void Eaters had established a beachhead in a nearby star system, consuming smaller planets as they prepare for their next major push. Dropping out of jump in 3, 2, 1, the helm officer announced. The starfield snapped back into focus, revealing a scene of cosmic horror. The system's sun was dimmer than it should have been, its light being steadily drained by a massive, undulating darkness that seemed to defy the laws of physics. "My God," someone whispered on the bridge. Elena's console lit up with incoming data. "Captain, I'm detecting unusual energy signatures. It looks like they're evolving." Before anyone could respond, a tendril of void lashed out towards the fleet. "Evasive maneuvers," Captain Chen shouted. The horizon banked hard, narrowly avoiding the attack. Other ships weren't so lucky. Elena watched in horror as 2 destroyers were enveloped by the darkness, disappearing in a flash of anti-light. "All ships, commence attack pattern Delta," Chen ordered. "Concentrate fire on the main mass." The space around them erupted in a dazzling display of energy weapons and fusion-powered missiles. The Void Eaters recoiled under the assault, parts of their amorphous form dissipating. But the creatures were quick to adapt. They split into smaller entities, darting between the ships with terrifying speed. The fleet's formation began to break down as captains took desperate measures to avoid being consumed. "This isn't working," Commander Jackson growled. "We need a new strategy." Elena's mind raced. She pulled up the sensor data, noticing a pattern in the Void Eaters' movements. "Captain, look at this. They're avoiding the areas where we've used our heaviest weapons. I think they're vulnerable to concentrated energy bursts." Captain Chen nodded grimly. "All right, let's put that theory to the test. All ships, form up on the horizon. Divert all power to forward weapons. We're going to punch a hole right through their center mass." The next few minutes were chaos. Ships maneuvered into position, taking hits as they formed a spearhead formation. Elena held her breath as the horizon surged forward, leading the charge. "Fire everything we've got," Chen roared. The combined firepower of the fleet lanced out, a beam of pure destruction that cut through the void like a knife. For a moment, it seemed like the attack had failed. Then, with a silent scream that everyone felt in their bones, the Void Eater's main mass collapsed in on itself. A cheer went up on the bridge, but Elena knew it was premature. "Captain, we've hurt them, but they're not defeated. Look." The remnants of the Void Eaters were retreating, but as they watched, the creatures began to coalesce into a new form. This one was more defined, almost solid, with tendrils of darkness whipping around a central core. "They're learning," Kalar said, their voice filled with awe and terror. "Adapting to our weapons in real time." The new entity lashed out, its attacks more focused and devastating than before. Ships began to fall at an alarming rate. "We can't win this fight," Admiral Zao's voice crackled over the comms. "All ships, prepare to retreat." But retreat wasn't an option. Elena knew that if they left now, the Void Eaters would only grow stronger. They needed a way to end this, here and now. An idea struck her, born of desperate times. "Captain, what if we overload the jump drive? The resulting explosion would be like a miniature supernova." Kalar's eye stalks swiveled towards her in alarm. The energy release would be catastrophic. It could tear a hole in the fabric of space-time itself. "Exactly," Elena said. "These creatures exist between dimensions. A rupture like that might be the only thing that can truly destroy them." Captain Chen's face was grim as she considered the plan. The blast radius would be enormous. We'd never get clear in time. Elena met the captain's gaze, her resolve firm. "I know, but it's our only chance to save Earth, to save every world these things threaten." A moment of silent communication passed between them. Chen nodded, then turned to address the fleet. "This is Captain Chen. All ships, retreat to minimum safe distance. The Horizon will handle this. As the other ships jumped away, the bridge crew of the Horizon worked feverishly to modify the jump drive. Elena's hands flew over her console, making calculations and adjustments. "It's ready," she announced, her voice steady despite the fear churning in her gut. Captain Chen looked around the bridge, meeting the eyes of each crew member. "It has been an honor serving with all of you. For Earth and for all life in the galaxy." Elena closed her eyes as Chen gave the order to activate the drive. There was a moment of absolute silence, then a blinding flash of light. The explosion ripped through space, tearing a hole in the very fabric of reality. The Void Eaters, caught in the maelstrom, were torn apart at the subatomic level. Their screams echoed across dimensions as they were scattered to the cosmic winds. In the aftermath, as the surviving ships of the fleet surveyed the devastation, they found no trace of the Horizon or the Void Eaters. Only a slowly stabilizing rift in space-time remained, a testament to the sacrifice made. Admiral Zao's voice broke the somber silence. "They did it. Earth is safe. The galaxy is safe." As the fleet prepared to return home, bearing news of their Pyrrhic victory, a lone Zarkonian ship lingered behind. Its sensors, more advanced than its human counterparts, detected something unusual, a faint energy signature, pulsing weakly from within the rift. Could it be? Had some part of the Horizon, some trace of its brave crew, survived the impossible? As the Zarkonian ship moved to investigate, the story of humanity's greatest triumph, and perhaps its next great adventure, was just beginning. The echoes of their valor would resonate across the stars for eons to come. The Grand Assembly Hall of the newly constructed Galactic Union headquarters on Earth was filled to capacity. Representatives from 100 different species sat in tiered rows, their diverse forms a testament to the rich tapestry of life that had flourished in the wake of the Void Eaters' defeat. At the center of it all stood a simple holographic projector, its soft blue glow a stark contrast to the colorful array of beings surrounding it. Admiral Zao, now sporting streaks of gray in his once black hair, stepped up to the podium. Though years had passed, the memory of that fateful battle still burned bright in his eyes. "Esteemed delegates," he began, his voice carrying easily through the hall, "we gather today not just to commemorate a victory, but to honor a sacrifice that changed the course of galactic history." With a wave of his hand, the holographic projector sprang to life. A familiar face materialized above it, Dr. Elena Reyes, her expression determined and hopeful as it had been on that fateful day. 5 years ago, Dr. Reyes and the crew of the UNSC Horizon gave their lives to save not just humanity, but all sentient life in our galaxy. Their act of valor opened our eyes to a fundamental truth, that our strength lies not in our differences, but in our unity. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the assembly. Among the delegates, Kalar's eye stalks swiveled emotionally, remembering their friend and colleague. Admiral Zhao continued, "In the years since, we've made incredible strides. The rift left behind by the Horizon's sacrifice has become a gateway to new discoveries. Our combined scientific efforts have unlocked secrets of the universe we never dreamed possible." The hologram shifted, showing images of joint human-alien research teams working on advanced technologies, exploring new worlds, and pushing the boundaries of known science. But perhaps the greatest legacy of the Horizon's crew is this very assembly. A galactic community, united in purpose, dedicated to ensuring that no threat like the Void Eaters will ever again endanger our collective existence. As Zao spoke, a commotion near the back of the hall caught everyone's attention. A figure in a hooded cloak was making their way towards the center, escorted by 2 Zarkonian guards. Whispers raced through the crowd as the figure approached the podium. Zao's eyes widened in recognition as the figure lowered their hood. Gasps echoed through the hall. It was Dr. Elena Reyes. Her face was older, bearing scars that spoke of unimaginable trials, but her eyes still held that same spark of determination and hope. "How?" Zhao breathed, momentarily at a loss for words. Elena smiled, her voice rough from disuse, but still strong. It's a long story, Admiral. One that involves quantum entanglement, parallel dimensions, and a lot of luck. But the short version is, the universe wasn't done with us yet. She turned to address the assembled delegates, her gaze sweeping across the diverse array of beings. When we activated that jump drive, we had no idea what would happen. We were thrown across dimensions, scattered through time and space. It's taken us years to find our way back, to reassemble ourselves. Her eyes misted over as she continued, not all of us made it. But those of us who did, we've seen wonders beyond imagination, and horrors too. We've learned that the Void Eaters were just one of many cosmic threats out there. A hush fell over the hall as the weight of her words sank in. But we've also learned that the capacity for courage, for sacrifice, for unity in the face of adversity, it's not unique to humanity. We've seen it in countless species across countless realities, and that gives me hope. Elena's gaze met Jao's, then Cla's, before sweeping across the assembly once more. The battle we fought 5 years ago was just the beginning. There will be more challenges ahead, more threats to face. But standing here, seeing all of you united, I know we'll be ready. As Elena's words faded, a moment of profound silence fell over the hall. Then, slowly at first, but building to a crescendo, applause erupted. Delegates rose to their feet, appendages of all shapes and sizes coming together in a thunderous ovation. Admiral Zao, composing himself, raised his hands for quiet. When the hall had settled, he spoke again, his voice thick with emotion. Dr. Reyes, on behalf of Earth, the Zarkonian Confederation, and indeed all members of this Galactic Union, welcome home. Elena nodded, a tired but genuine smile on her face. As she took her place beside Jao, the holographic projector shifted once more. It now displayed an image of the UNSC horizon, proud and intact, set against a backdrop of stars. Let this be a reminder to us all, Jao declared, of the power of unity, of the strength found in diversity, and of the indomitable spirit that binds us all, regardless of our origins. As the assembly stood in respectful silence, the image of the horizon seemed to shimmer with possibility. It was more than a memory now, it was a promise. A promise of a future where the combined strength of a united galaxy could face any challenge, explore any frontier, and triumph over any adversity. The echoes of valor that had begun with a desperate battle against cosmic horror had transformed into a symphony of hope, resilience, and unity. And as the delegates of the Galactic Union looked to the stars, they knew that the greatest adventures and the greatest triumphs still lay ahead. The end.